Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Tales of Herding Gods based on novel. So let's start. The dragon Qin was flustered and exasperated. Cult Master, we are about to die, but you still have time to think of this. Qin Mu smiled. The person controlling Bamboo City has extremely high attainments in algebra and is not inferior to me. If it was a fair fight, I could still defeat him. However, since they schemed against me and took the first move when an opportunity arose, it's very hard for me to solve their formation. By the time I would do it, we would have already been squashed to death. The dragon Qin despaired, but Qin Mu didn't seem to share his feelings. He suddenly shouted out, "Senior brother Yu, long time no see. Don't you want to chat with me before I die?" "I don't. I'm scared I will die if I talk too much." Qin Mu could not tell from where Yu Buchanan's voice was coming, but it sounded quite delighted. When dealing with a person like Cult Master Qin, it's best if you die as soon as possible. I can't risk you dying a moment later. Only dead Cult Master Qin is Cult Master Qin that people can trust. Qin Mu's face turned black like charcoal. But brother Qin can be at ease. If I meet your corpse, I will definitely sit down and tell you about myself. Yu Buchanan laughed happily. Little brother, I have a bad habit, and that's trying my best to get rid of the opponent when I fight them. Only when the opponent dies do I become talkative and have a good chat with their corpse, telling them the reason why they lost to me. I won't make an exemption for Cult Master Qin. Qin Mu sighed ruefully. What a good habit. I'm trapped here and am destined to die under your hand, yet you are still so careful. Truly a wonderful opponent. So this is called meeting your match. I want to do a painting for you in consideration of our friendship that started with appreciating each other's talents. The movements of the stone walls became more and more concentrated, and the cubic cage formed by Bamboo City was also changing extremely fast. Every move contained profound mathematical structure. They became formation structures, and the stone cubes that no longer moved on the outer layer had already become a killing formation, trapping those inside. Slowly, the stone cubes in the inner layers also started to stop moving, becoming killing formations as well. As one layer wrapped around another, it became more and more unlikely that the trio would escape. When the final killing formation was laid out, there would no longer be any way out. If Qin Mu and the rest moved, they would die. If they didn't move, they would also die. Qin Mu chose to stand in his stop. He raised his brush and splashed some ink, then began painting with quick strokes. Stone pillars continuously closed in on them, and the formation changed continuously. Finally, it came right to where they were. When it evolved until its final stage, it became 6 walls which came squeezing toward the center. The 6-sided stone walls continuously pushed forward while giving off loud booms. Finally, the 6 walls collided and immense power burst forth. The formations on the outer layer activated, and the runes on the countless stone cubes lighted up, giving the 6 walls terrifying crushing force. The whole cubic Bamboo City trembled from the collision. Such a strike would make it hard even for experts of Divine Bridge Realm to escape death, let alone someone like Qin Mu or the dragon Qin. Great, truly superb. Yu Buchanan clapped his hands and laughed. Formation Master is still Formation Master after all. This formation is truly unrivaled in the world and no one is a match for it. Despite Heavenly Devil Cult Master being full of tricks, he could do nothing against Formation Master's formations. He died without any grudge. A woman's voice answered him with insipidness. Young Master, you flatters me. I've heard that this Cult Master Qin had once fought with Poison Master Mu Ingxue, who is quite arrogant but had lost to him. This shows that there's something extraordinary about him, but he focused too much on poison and his attainments in algebra and formations are far inferior to mine. I was matching against someone who was inferior to me, so I was able to trap them. Cult Master had no choice but to offer up his head and be executed. Yu Buchanan laughed loudly. He thought Bamboo City could only defeat him with brute force, so he rushed in to show off his impressive skills, but he didn't expect that it was merely a bait set up by Formation Master and ended up in the trap. Formation Master, Poison Master, and Sword Master are the three absolutes of our West Earth, and you are all truly extraordinary. Formation Master, please undo this formation. I want to take a look at the painting Cult Master Qin left for me. The sound of swords clashing rang out, and the huge formation of Bamboo City gradually unwound itself. Chunks of huge stone sank into the ground, and the houses and palaces slowly rose from the ground. Not long later, Bamboo City recovered back to normal and a wall stood where Qin Mu and the rest had been stuck. A painting was hanging there. Yu Buchanan had a smile on his face as he sat on the carriage which drove toward the wall. Behind him followed a crowd of experts from West Earth. There were about 100 of them, and in the lead was a woman. She had a delicate and pretty appearance, and there was a metal cube in her hands. It broke down and turned into metal cubes of all sizes. They then rattled and merged together. The woman was Formation Master He of West Earth, a person who was as famous as Poison Master Mu Ingxue and Sword Master Luo Yinyu. The three masters of West Earth were all girls, and they all had their unique ultimate arts which allowed them to set up an independent regime. Formation Master He ruled Bamboo City and had become famous with her formation skills, which were unrivaled in West Earth. No one was a match for her in formation skills. Even though True Heaven Palace was the sacred ground of West Earth, the three masters had their strong point and weren't subordinate to anyone. However, due to the power of True Heaven Palace, the three masters were slightly fearful of it. If the sacred ground had any requests, they would help. Behind He were the experts of Bamboo City. They were the heads of all the influential families in Bamboo City, and their abilities were strong, much stronger than those of people in Fragrant Bloom City. To be able to set up an independent regime, they were naturally no small fries. Yu Buchanan drove the carriage next to the stone wall. He examined the painting and saw within it were Qin Mu, the dragon Qilin, and Xiong Chia. They looked remarkably realistic. Vivid and lifelike. Yu Buchanan was full of smiles as he laughed to the female disciples of True Heaven Palace. Truly vivid and lifelike. Cult Master Qin's painting is really superb. If he sold paintings, he could be adequately provided. Ha 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 ha. The women in the carriage laughed. It's a pity he's dead. Young master, take a look, Cult Master Qin is still smiling in the painting. Another female of True Heaven Palace smiled and said, to die in the hands of Formation Master after seeing her perfect formation, this should deserve a smile of no regrets, right? Yu Buchanan laughed loudly and got out of the carriage. With his hands behind his back, he examined the painting on the stone wall. He then said leisurely, Cult Master Qin, let's chat for a bit. Great. Qin Mu in the painting suddenly turned his head around and grinned. I was also thinking of chatting with senior brother Yu. Sword treading mountains and river. Yu Buchanan's expression changed drastically, and he retreated in a hurry while shouting. This guy cheated death. Disciples of True Heaven Palace, we can get rid of him by destroying this painting. Numerous women around him immediately went forward and attacked the painting. At the same time, sword light burst forth. It trembled, and a marvelous transformation was witnessed by the crowd. It was no longer sword light, but mountains and rivers flying at their faces. The 10 or so female disciples of True Heaven Palace were instantly drowned out by them. Their elegant bodies seemed to have been frozen in place before scattering like sand. The speed at which the mountains and rivers surged forth was extremely fast and drowned out the carriage in an instant, swallowing Yu Buchanan who was behind it. Formation Master He didn't move, but astonishment could be seen on her face. Truly superb sword skill. He's not much inferior to Sword Master Luo Yinyu. Behind her, most of the experts of influential families in Bamboo City were stirring, ready to kill Qin Mu, but he raised her hand. No need to help. Young Master Yu has only invited us to lay a formation to hold Cult Master Qin of Middle-earth back. He only asked this from us, so we have no obligation to help him again. Everyone was forced to remain in place. Qin Mu's sword treading mountains and rivers didn't surge toward them, and he said in a low voice, he also shows proper restraint. The power of sword treading mountain and rivers had killed over 10 beauties of True Heaven Palace. Yu Buchanan couldn't help shivering and shouted loudly, Cult Master Qin, why don't we have a chat? His clothes fluttered. Even though he was a man, there were numerous accessories on his body. There were things like silver, jade, and chain bracelets, jade pendants, rings, necklaces, hairpins, and even longevity pendants that all came flying out. They were his spirit weapons, and their power was extremely great. In the end, they weren't made by Yu Buchanan, but were treasures given to him by his elders to stay safe. The spirit weapons had extremely terrifying power. A green dragon hairpin gently trembled and transformed into a green dragon. Its roar reverberated in the air, and a huge hole was blown in the mountains and rivers. Yu Buchanan was delighted and jumped out through the opening. But suddenly, he lost connection with the green dragon hairpin. Next, he lost his sense of the other treasure, and terror filled him. Qin Mu's incomparably intricate sword skill had severed the vital qi connections between him and his treasures. This made him unable to use any treasures even though he had so many of them. Such wondrous sword skill was truly terrifying. Just as he jumped out of sword-treading mountains and rivers, he saw the dragon Qilin coming at him with his huge claws. He immediately took off his outer clothes and they floated up against the wind. They grew larger and larger as though they were a piece of cloud. The dragon Qilin's claws struck the clothes, but they were soft and seemed to be empty, and the dragon Qilin sank deeper and deeper into them. Yu Buchanan turned to leave while topless, but he heard a loud roar coming from the dragon Qilin behind him. Fire blazed, and the clothing was burned to ashes in an instant. "Formation Master, save me!" Yu Buchanan shouted out. "If I die in your bamboo city, you guys won't be able to escape responsibility." When he voiced his plea, the 100 experts behind Formation Master all frowned. A woman whispered, "Young Master Yu is the son of true Heaven Palace Master, after all. If he dies here, we indeed won't escape responsibility. No matter if it's true Heaven Palace Master or Bago, they both aren't easy to deal with. Formation Master, think thrice." He shook her head. "Don't save." Everyone looked at each other in dismay, not understanding why she was acting like that. "I can't kill Heavenly Devil Cult Master of Middle-earth, but I have already attempted to lay my hands on him and formed a grudge. If I interfere and save young Master Yu, the grudge between Cult Master Qin and me will never be able to be resolved," he said indifferently. "I have long heard about Middle-earth's eternal peace undergoing reforms. They are becoming stronger day by day and have already annexed everything in the 6 directions and swept the 8 wildernesses. The prairie and the snow plains have all been entered into eternal peace. The next target, however, is not Great Ruins, but our West Earth. If true Heaven Palace loses against eternal peace, Heavenly Devil Cult will enter West Earth and it will be our end." Everyone's blood ran cold. But he wasn't done yet. On top of that, as the young master of true Heaven Palace, how could Yu Buchanan not have any methods to protect his life? Young Master Yu had chased Naikue to the brink of death, which is not something an ordinary person could achieve. Just as she said that, a jade belt flew out from Yu Buchanan's waist and transformed into a huge snake that bound the dragon Qilin that was pouncing on him. Yu Buchanan escaped in a panic, but sword light suddenly flashed thrice. Yu Buchanan's body separated into 4 sections in midair. His legs were still sprinting forward, but the head froze in a daze. His chest also separated into 2. Qin Mu pulled back his sword. At that moment, Yu Buchanan, who had been severed into 4 sections, fell from the air as 4 chunks of wood. To substitute one thing for another? Qin Mu was astonished. He raised his hand to catch the sword pellet flying out from his Daotai sack, then flung it out forcefully. The 2-feet sword pellet whizzed forward while spinning. The flying swords within it into cold lights that shot into the ground and rushed through it. A human figure burst out from underground, and it was none other than Yu Buchanan. Behind him were the sword lights which had entered the ground to force him out and were chasing him relentlessly. Yu Buchanan raised his head to see the sword pellet coming at his head, and his expression shifted. If he was hit by that unimaginably huge sword pellet, his face would sink into his brain, or even his whole head might sink into his chest. Suddenly, his body transformed into earth and fell from the sky. Layers of formation markings appeared in his eyes as he stared at the ground. His gaze was moving quickly when his arms suddenly trembled. He flew horizontally out of Bamboo City and hit a pile of mountain rocks in front of the city. The pile suddenly exploded and Yu Buchuan's body appeared among the scattered rocks. Formation Master, I will kill him outside the city, consider this giving you room for maneuver. When Qin Mu's voice rang out through the city, He frowned. She raised her head to look into the distance and saw Qin Mu stretching his hand for his knife. Pig slaughtering knife automatically flew up, and he caught it in a reverse grip. The bodies of the two youths crossed in midair like two spinning tops, exchanging strikes back and forth. Bloodlight shone, and Qin Mu landed with a head in his hand. Blood was still dripping from the huge knife in his other hand. Thump! Behind him, Yu Buchuan's corpse landed on the ground and bounced twice. Within the city, the faces of Formation Master He and the rest of the experts grew dazed when they looked at the youth carrying the head. Raise the forbidden knife, and the Emperor's head is in his hand. Butcher's knife skills were as bold and haughty as his poems. At that moment, Qin Mu was also haughty and unruly. He had killed Yu Buchuan, who he thought wouldn't die. The young master of True Heaven Palace is dead. The corners of everyone's eyes twitched, and their emotions were incomparably heavy. Cult Master Qin had only brought a dragon Chileen and a little princess, but dared to barge his way into West Earth while killing anyone that blocked his path. After he raised his knife and killed even the son of True Heaven Palace Master, he was truly like a starving tiger overflowing with haughtiness, living up to the reputation of Heavenly Devil Cult Master. It is said that turbulent wind precedes a mountain storm. True Heaven Palace Master and Ba had young Master Yu as their only son, but he died outside Bamboo City. Heavenly Devil Cult Master from Middle-earth's eternal peace was truly ruthless and decisive. As long as he found the smallest opportunity, he would not let it escape and give any hope for his enemies. Wanting to escape alive from his hands was beyond difficult. Only the slippery beings on the level of Roland Golden Palace's Grandmaster could slip through his fingers over and over again. Yu Buchuan's ability to escape was obviously much inferior when compared to that of an old monster who had lived 10,000 years, even if he was the son of True Heaven Palace Master and Ba. He walked out of the city and saw Qin Mu placing Yu Buchuan's head down. He took out a wine jar and poured a cup of wine to put beside his opponent's corpse. You like to chat with a corpse after you killed them? Qin Mu raised his head and gulped down a big mouthful of wine, then placed the wine jar beside Yu Buchuan's head while saying leisurely, "But I don't like it. Not chatting, farewell." After he said that, he stood up and walked over to He. "Cult Master Qin," He greeted. Qin Mu returned her greeting with a pleasant expression. "Sister Formation Master, how may I address you?" He looked at him strangely, then asked curiously, "Cult Master doesn't know my name." "My surname is He and my name is He. He is a big surname is West Earth and I have become erudite through paternal teaching and influence." "So I see," Qin Mu said. "Sister E's attainments in formation skills aren't bad and even I couldn't solve them in a short time, so I had no choice but to use the world in the painting to escape." So Sister E received inheritance from her influential family. Your He family is truly extraordinary in formation skills, so you can be said to be number 3 in the world. Behind He, everyone grew somewhat angry. He family's formation skills were number 1 in the world, which was something everyone knew. Yet when it came to Qin Mu, they became number 3, so how could they not be angry? He looked at Xiong Chia and seemed to recognize the little girl. She smiled and asked, "I don't care if I'm number 3 or number 1. Cult Master bringing little princess to True Heaven Palace is quite a conspiracy. In my eyes, though, Cult Master is just throwing his life away by going to True Heaven Palace, but you don't look like someone who will just throw away their life. Can you solve this mystery for me? Sister E, do you want to talk here?" He then invited him into the city and to the main hall. Qin Mu sat down there and said in a solemn face, "Formation Master should know why I'm here, right?" His heart trembled slightly, and she cried out, "You are planning to help Naikue snatch back her position of the Palace Master. Naikue is also here. She's hiding somewhere." Qin Mu laughed softly before shaking his head. "Sister E is holding me under some contempt. My journey this time is under the Emperor's order to enlist West Earth. In the hall, all the masters of the influential families of Bamboo City looked at one another. Under the orders of the Emperor to enlist West Earth? Just Qin Mu alone? His gaze flickered. Isn't Cult Master Qin's tone too overbearing? What qualifications do you have to annex West Earth? Qin Mu smiled. I'm Heavenly Devil Cult Master, and that itself is a qualification. My Heavenly Devil Cult has 1,000,000 divine arts practitioners, and with a wave of my arm, that 1,000,000 would gather together. With a pointing of my finger, that army of practitioners would raise everything down in their path. Your West Earth has been at peace for far too long, and all your cities and lands do things in their own way. Not to mention the Emperor's martial prowess, even my Heavenly Devil Cult's 1,000,000 divine arts practitioners would see you as merely chickens and dogs that can't withstand a single blow. He stood up with his hands behind his back. I've forged Sunshot divine cannon that shot down Jade Sovereign of High Heavens. I've subdued Dragon Rearing Sovereign and ordered him to guard Surging River before subduing Baishi of High Heavens and ordering him to guard 100 Years Mountains. My eternal peace fought at God-Broken Mountain and eradicated all the gods of High Heavens. His gaze was like lightning when he swept it through everyone. If I wanted to wipe out your West Earth, it'd be as easy as snapping my fingers. Everyone's faces went paper white. Qin Mu smiled then. However, I don't wish for the people of West Earth to be wiped out or even spoil the peace here. If Naikue was to retake the position of Palace Master, she would lead True Heaven Palace to submit to eternal peace. Not a soldier would be mobilized and no lives would be harmed, so what's the harm in putting myself in danger? My safety is not as important as the lives of the people of West Earth after all. Sister E, will you lend me a helping hand? He looked the masters of Bamboo City's influential families and saw that all of them were terrified. She frowned, then a smile blossomed on her lips. Cult Master Qin said that my formation skills are number 3 in the world, so may I ask who is number 1? And who is number 2 as well? E would like to know about it. Even though he said she didn't care about being first or third, she couldn't deny her own curiosity. In West Earth, she was known as Formation Master, the number 1 in formation skills. However, she didn't dare to insist that she was number 1 in the whole world. However, being the number 1 for so many years, she still had her competitive side. As the cult master of Heavenly Devil Cult, Qin Mu was more experienced and knowledgeable, so she wanted to learn who were the number 1 and number 2 in his eyes. Sister E may not know it, but I'm from Great Ruin's number 1 family in formation skills. Qin Mu's expression was sincere when he said that. The number 1 in formation skills in the whole world is none other than my grandpa Blind. He stared at him with black eyes. He was from Great Ruin's number 1 family in formation skills? The number 1 in formations was a blind man? Does Cult Master Qin have some misunderstandings regarding formation skills? He asked calmly. Formation skills walk the path of algebra, and the simplest is the Palace of 9 Halls. Kan, Kuan, Zhen, Zun, Zhong, Qian, Dui, Zhen, and Li represent the 9 numbers which are not repeated, and their sum is 45. Slightly harder than this would be the 8 trigrams, changing from octal system to base 64-1, which results in endless transformations. Beyond that would be the 5 elements. 5 elements 8 trigrams have the Qinary system, octal system, and base 64. The even harder Taiji and Wuji diagrams have no end to their circumference, but no matter how exquisite the calculations are, there will still be flaws. So what attainments can a blind man have in algebra? Sister, look into my eyes, Qin Mu said solemnly. He didn't know what he meant, but carefully observed his pupils. Her mind trembled when she did it. She saw formation markings gradually forming in the eyes of the boy before her, transforming into the first heaven. The mathematical transformation within its formations intoxicated her. But before she could even comprehend it, the second heaven formed, and its mathematical transformation was even more complicated and profound. Next, it was the third heaven, fourth heaven, and only when it came to the fifth heaven, bright heaven's eyes, did the formation skills in Qin Mu's eyes paused. The first heaven of the first layer alone contained attainments in algebra that could be acclaimed as the peak of perfection. Qin Mu's current cultivation was only able to execute 9 Heaven's Eye Awakening skill, but the transformations in his eyes had not yet stopped. A sun and stars were born within them. The stars formed into the Milky Way, revolving around the sun at the back. In the main hall, the 100 heads of the influential families looked at each other in dismay. He had almost stuck her face to that of Qin Mu. The two of them looked each other in the eyes as though they were lovers that could not turn their passionate gazes away from one another. Cough cough. A white-haired old woman finally gave a few coughs to remind their city lord of her decorum. He came back to her senses at that moment, and her face went beet red. She immediately stepped back and said firmly, "This Grandpa Blind can indeed be known as the #1 formation expert in this world. I'm ashamed for being inferior." Qin Mu's face was also slightly red. Closeness had made his heart race. In the past, when I learned eye awakening skills from Grandpa Blind, I didn't seek to understand the transformation of the formations. Grandpa Blind's divine eyes can see through all fabrications, space, formations, and transformations in techniques. Only after I learned Dao Sect's algebra did I understand the mathematical transformation within them. Dao Sect uses algebra to understand all things in the world and how the universe operates, so the reason why Grandpa Blind's divine eyes can see through everything is because algebra is the truth of this universe. Thus, I came to understand that Grandpa Blind was the #1 person in formation skills. He suppressed all other thoughts and said firmly, if he wanted to break the formation of my bamboo city, it'd be easy for him. He deserves the reputation of #1. Then who is the #2 expert in the world? Qin Mu smiled at her with some embarrassment. He stared at him with her black eyes wide open, then cried out, "You are the #2 formation expert." Qin Mu blushed as he said, "I didn't dare to call myself #2 at first, but after seeing Sister E's formation skills, I feel I can still be #2. Rage boiled in He's heart, but she gritted her teeth. With a smile, she said, "I don't dare to fight for #1 spot, but I'm not willing to accept being relegated to #3. Cult Master Qin proclaimed that he is #3 in poisoning and defeated Mu Yingxue, making that girl personally admit that her poison is only #4 in the world. Now that you proclaim your formation skills to be #2 as well, isn't that a little weird? Let us have a duel." "What kind of duel?" Qin Mu asked with interest. He muttered to herself irresolutely for a moment before smiling at him. "It'll still be about this bamboo city. You will be outside and I will be inside, standing here motionless. If you will be able to enter the city and find me, I will admit that I'm lower than you and accept being #3. Not only that, from today onward, He family and its people will take you as our only guide. If you'll want to support Naikue to retake her position of the Palace Master, my He family will give all of its support to you." Qin Mu laughed loudly and turned around to walk out of the city. In the hall, the 100 strongest practitioners of Bamboo City looked at one another in dismay. An old woman was about to say something, but he waved a hand at her. "No need to say anything else. I will take this chance to observe Eternal Peace's attainments in formation skills. If my formation is broken, Bamboo City will also fall when Eternal Peace invades later on, so why don't we submit to it in advance? If Cult Master Qin can't break my formation skill, we can still fight when the day of reckoning comes. Fall back. Cult Master Qin and I will have a duel to determine the fate of Bamboo City, and maybe even the fate of West Earth." Everyone could only retread from Bamboo City. The city gate was left wide open. Qin Mu had the dragon Qilin bring out Xiong Chia. He then walked into the city, and it suddenly changed. All the buildings sank into the ground and vanished without a trace. Chunks of rocks rose into midair, evolving into formations. The appearance of Bamboo City changed tremendously, and in the other people's eyes, it was just weird things happening as rocks began shifting in the air. Most people would find it hard to understand the changes in formation from the moving rocks, but Qin Mu understood them, and in his eyes, they were magnificent and diverse. Every movement of the rocks gave him an incomparably pleasant impression. Each and every rune was linked, and the infrastructure intertwined, presenting a pleasant sight to him. No matter if it were barriers or killing formations, they were all mathematical reasonings. Formation markings appeared in Qin Mu's pupils, and he walked swiftly forward. Sometimes he would stop and raise his brush to change the formation markings, while at other times, he would move a step forward or stumble 3 steps back like a drunkard. There were also times when springs seemed to have been attached to the bottom of his feet, allowing him to jump here and there among the moving stones. He seemed to be flying gracefully as he passed through some barriers and like he was barging through with brute force at others. Just as it looked like he was risking his life to hit a barrier, the stone wall would suddenly split open before he crashed into it, allowing him to pass. As he wandered unhurriedly while solving the difficult algebra questions, he got closer and closer to the center of Bamboo City. Everything within it was transforming, and even the main hall they were in had broken down and vanished. The only thing that didn't change was He's location. She stood quietly on a stone pillar and didn't move. She was executing various transformations of Bamboo City and changing all kinds of formations to stop Qin Mu. However, their situation was different from the previous time. Qin Mu had been ambushed at that time and trapped in the city, so it wasn't considered fair. Now that he was barging through the formation at his own speed, it tested whose attainments in formation skills were superior. After some time, he saw Qin Mu's figure getting close and couldn't help growing nervous. She frantically mobilized the huge stones to lay out a new formation, but Qin Mu was still closing in at a steady pace. Where he stood was the center of Bamboo City, and it was also the eye of the formation in Bamboo City. Qin Mu was only 30 yards away from it, and the last layer of formation might not be able to block him. He suddenly gritted her teeth, and Bamboo City suddenly trembled. The formation skills before her were activated, and it became an absolutely fatal situation. The killing formations linked together and their power multiplied like crazy as they rushed toward He's location. She activated the last resort formation which disregarded the concepts of friend and foe. No matter if it was Qin Mu or her, both of them would be swallowed by the killing formation. As formation master of West Earth, he had inherited the honor of He family and couldn't allow her family's reputation to be harmed. With the title of number 1 in formation skills lost, no matter if it was death that would welcome her, she had to protect the honor of He family. Qin Mu's expression changed slightly, and he came to He's side before the fatal formation could reach them. Grabbing her waist with one hand, he raised a brush and painted in the air with the other hand. He closed her eyes as the killing formation came rushing over to swallow both of them. When nothing happened, she opened her eyes and saw that they were not in Bamboo City anymore. Instead, they were hidden in the depths of its space. However, when the absolutely fatal formation skills exploded, they tore through the world in the painting and rushed over toward them. The world in the painting in which the two resided at that moment was about to crumble and be destroyed. With a solemn face, Qin Mu's brush moved like dragons and snakes, possessing myriads of changes. Suddenly, he felt a force around her waist, and she was pulled into another painting. They rushed inside it, and he saw beautiful mountains and rivers with flowers blooming romantically. The scenery was extremely pleasant to the eye. Yet the next moment, the killing formation of Bamboo City crushed that world, and power that could destroy everything rolled toward them. You aren't using formation skills to solve my formation skills. He looked sternly and seriously at this boy beside her. Even if you escape the killing formation of Bamboo City, I won't admit defeat. You are number 2 in formation skills, and I'll just not fight with you. Will that do? Qin Mu laughed loudly and splashed his ink like a scholar indulging himself, writing words everywhere. Before Bamboo City's deadliest formation skill could destroy their world in the painting, he brought He into the next world. Resplendent stars occupied the sky there. They were like glowing gems, lighting up the darkness. Qin Mu brought He onto the stars and began sprinting through the starry sky. His brush didn't stop for a moment, and he drew the Milky Way. Behind them was the absolutely fatal formation skill, but ignoring it they jumped into the river and floated far away. The Milky Way went downstream, and Qin Mu held onto He's waist tightly to prevent her from being washed away. When she finally managed to find her feet, she was still in a daze. She saw Qin Mu swinging his brush around and pulling her closer as he jumped onto a newly drawn celestial horse. It sprinted out from the painting and became a reality. It galloped while its wings flapped to increase its speed, and they left the killing formation quite a distance away. Qin Mu raised his brush once again and splashed the ink as much as he liked. A door appeared in front of them, and when it opened, bright rays shone from the other place. The celestial horse carried rushed to the door. He was stunned when she realized that they were on a mountain peak outside of Bamboo City. While still holding her by the waist, Qin Mu jumped off the celestial horse. It flapped its wings and raised its front legs to give a cry before transforming back into ink that fell onto the ground. From the distance, numerous heads of the influential families of Bamboo City hurried over to their side. An elder was about to say something when he smiled and spoke in a gentle tone. "I lost. Cult Master Qin's formation skills are number 2 in the world. My He family and everyone in Bamboo City will follow him with all our hearts." Qin Mu looked at her with bewilderment. In his eyes, a trace of tender emotions could be seen brewing, and her gaze was like clear autumn water. This video will end here.